Devils. Lots of technical issues. Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 44. On the Let's Go Devils podcast network. Powered by Nova Product Design from Primetime Radio. I am your host, Sam Wu, broadcasting live from somewhere in New Jersey with my co-host, somewhere in beautiful 65-degree weather in Florida, Nick Villano, Pucks and Pitchforks, editor-in-chief. Sorry for the technical difficulties. You know, it's amazing, Nick, that everything was working fine. As soon as I hit the stream button, everything went haywire. The internet gets lagged, pushing buttons that I never pushed before on this podcast. But hey, I got the one screw-up quota a show podcast. Now we can have a perfect podcast because we've got a perfect guest coming on a little bit later. His name is Chris Ryan of NJ.com or NJ Advanced Media, whatever they call it. Still call it the Star Ledger. We got him on. He is fired up to be on this live podcast. Also, we're going to play the game. Nick, I named the podcast Devils Getting Chippy because I love chippiness. I love rudeness. I love in your face. I love standing up for your teammate. That's what we had in Detroit last night. Maybe we should start off with that, Nick. Why don't you go right ahead?
Well, I mean, it was a do-nothing game against the Detroit Red Wings. That's pretty much the analysis that I have. They beat the worst team in the league. End of analysis. I feel like the trade deadline is where we should still start.
Okay, all right. Well, I was just trying to hype it up. Thanks a lot, Nick. All right, let's start with trade deadline. I was just trying to get things going, a little chippiness, but I see you're kind of chippy right now. So why don't you fire away with trade deadline? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's been a couple days, but it's felt like a week, hasn't it? Like it feel like the trade deadline happened a week ago.
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of these things coming. Sammy Vatanen being moved, also Wayne Simmons, he was on the block. Louis Domingue, I thought the writing was on the wall as well, especially with Corey being called up and him not dressing. But I think the surprise out of wasn't really on deadline day, but of several days back was the big trade down to Tampa, Blake Coleman for Nolan Foote and a conditional first rounder, the pick that came from Vancouver trade to Tampa. I think that's what's got everybody. Well, that's what had everybody on edge because all the rumors of Kyle Palmieri, but later Tom Fitzgerald, the Devils interim GM, he said, well, unless you blew us away with a wonderful offer, he's in our plans. And he explained why.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Fitzgerald kind of, snapped a little bit at Abby Mastracco, which, the internet kind of ran with. I felt a little bit bad about it. But anyway, he was like, well, he's a 30-goal scorer. I mean, technically he did it once. He is a 30-goal scorer. He just can't stay healthy enough to get to that number ever again. The last time that Kyle Palmieri scored 30 goals, Adam Henrique scored 30 goals for the Devils. So I want you to think about that, Sam, that the last time that Kyle Palmieri was a 30-goal scorer was the same season that Adam Henrique was a 30-goal scorer for the New Jersey Devils. Now, that being said, I haven't actually written about the Kyle Palmieri aspect of this, and I feel like I need to. I probably will do it after the podcast or maybe tomorrow morning, one of those two things. But either way, I have been trying to figure out whether the Devils made the right decision not trading Kyle Palmieri. And at the end of the day, I think that they did, because I think the market wasn't where we thought it was going to be when Blake Coleman got traded. We thought that Palmieri was going to get more than what we got for Blake Coleman. And I think what happened is the teams that were willing to go all in did so. And they did so early. The Tampa Bay Lightning knew the pieces they wanted. And they paid whatever price it was to get them, because last year they paid nothing for nobody, and look where it got them. Got them nowhere. So, basically the Lightning paid 3 first-round picks at this deadline just to kind of get those pieces that they felt that they needed. The New York Islanders were looking for very specific pieces. That's why they went all in on I always forget his middle name, but Pajot from the Senators. John Gabriel Pajot. They spent a fortune on him, and then they almost got Zach Parise, which is very strange. I kind of want to know more about that. I want to know what the heck happened there, but that might be one of those things that might die with Lou Lamoriello. But it's kind of funny. I was watching the trade deadline coverage on TSN, and they said that it looks like Zach Parise is going to the Island, and then one of the analysts goes, unless Lou Lamoriello just heard this and he might kill the deal. And Sam, what happened? Deal's dead.
That's what happens with Lou, or it could be another thing. Does Parise have a no trade clause in his contract? Do you know?
He waived it. It sounds like
he waived it. Oh, okay.
It sounds like he waived it. It sounds like Andrew Ladd waived his to go over to Minnesota. The interesting thing about the Parise trade is that I thought it was a terrible trade, right? Because, I mean, why would you sign yourself up for that contract? But here's the thing, Sam, is in 3 years, so 2 years after this one, his cap hit stays the same at the $7.5 million, but his salary goes down to $2 million a year.
Okay.
Right? So if he retires, because he's like, why would I play for $2 million a year? I have no interest in that. If he retires, that means that the cap recapture at that point would go entirely to the Minnesota Wild. The Islanders would owe nothing on Zach Parise if he retired 3 years early. If Zach Parise retired in the final year of his contract, where he's supposed to make $1 million, the Minnesota Wild would face a $24 million cap hit. So kind of insane. But anyway,
that is insane.
I just thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit. But on the Vatanen contract, I know everybody's here to kind of get my analysis on those specific deals. I think that the Vatanen deal was underwhelming, but necessary. I like the player, but his upside is a third line scorer and kind of a little bit of a playmaker. I think he's fine. He can make the team next year, maybe. I still like McLeod is a better prospect, and Joey Anderson is a better prospect, and Merkley. I think I like Merkley a little bit better. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna test this name out. So I think it's Janne Kukkonen. Does that sound right, Sam? I don't know.
You know what? It sounds right, only because we have Matt Loughlin on Monday on the trade deadline special recap, and that's how he pronounced it.
Yeah, so we're going to go with Janne Kukkonen.
Yeah.
I'm cuckoo for Kukkonen. Can I
I was
make
just
a
about
sound
to
like
say that? Yeah, you know what? I'll make a little Photoshop, take the Cocoa Puffs, take your Cocoa Puffs and just slap on Yanni on there. And maybe during rookie camp or during the Devils training camp when they open it to the public, maybe I'll hold up that sign, for him to make the team. Although I don't think that has any bearing on Tom Fitzgerald or whoever the GM will be.
Yeah, probably not. But I know that I was really disappointed at first with this deal. Oh, I think I was disappointed at first only because I thought it was this player and a second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that deal. I thought that was a win. I thought that was a hard line win, not like a domination. Like I still think the Hurricanes are getting value out of that deal. I thought it was a win. I thought, we got good value out of Sami Vatanen, who's hurt and who's he was struggling before he got hurt. He was kind of up and down this season. He had times where he was superstar level, and honestly, they probably should have traded him at the same time as they traded Taylor Hall, because they would have got a first-round pick for him in December. And they held their cards. They thought that the markets would grow. They did. The only problem is that Sammy got hurt. And then when Sammy got hurt, the teams weren't desperate enough to take a chance on the guy who was hurt. You saw Carolina gave him a first-round pick for Brady Skjei. So to see that Brady Skjei get a bigger return than Sami Vatanen, that kind of hurts as the Rangers just continue to stockpile assets. And we're trying to catch up to them. And they, the Rangers already have one of the deepest prospect rosters in the league. The Devils, in comparison, have one that's in the middle of the pack. The difference is the Devils have some young, like some of the people who would be prospects, like Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and Jesper Boquist and Jesper Bratt, are on the team. So that helps. But I just think that, Kuokkanen adds to a prospect group. It's about 15th in the league, probably somewhere in that range. And he's definitely somebody who can make the team next year. He's 21 years old. He was leading the Charlotte Checkers in points. I kind of hoped out of the draft that he would shoot more. He's not. He's become more of a playmaker. So I think that he's got a little bit of the Mikey McLeod issues, where Mikey McLeod is kind of came to the NHL or he came to the professional hockey, and he's kind of trying to make plays instead of just take the shot himself. And the best we've seen of McLeod is when he took the shot himself in Mississauga. And I think that Kuokkanen is another guy, a big Finnish prospect, who, if he just learns when he should shoot, I think that he could be good.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna phone in Chris Ryan right now. I know Facebook Live is people are trying to chime in, but also look at YouTube Live and Twitter and Periscope. Nick, those numbers have been climbing pretty nicely. So if you can get to it, chat with those people, because people are chatting. Of course they're chatting, because we're the most commented Devils podcast in the history of New Jersey Devils podcasts. Anyway.
So I see Tim Clark Callahan wasn't the same after his concussion, talking about Sami Vatanen. Tim, I don't know if you've been reading my stuff, but that's kind of the point I've been making. When he got hit by Nikita Kucherov in that playoff series and it knocked him out, the Devils weren't the same that series. I thought they were chippy. I thought they had a shot. I thought that they gained momentum when they beat the Lightning on the road, but it was over when Sammy was out. They could not stop that. And I understand that Brady Skjei has term left on his contract. Joe Stanek. People are telling me that I'm comparing apples and oranges, and you're just getting a worse player. And you gave him a first-round pick for a worse player. I get that he has a 1 year. Now you're stuck for another year of a worse player. I don't get it. That's just me. Maybe you could have gotten some conditions for the Sammy, but I don't think that Carolina has any interest in re-signing him in the sorry. I don't think they have any interest in him re-signing the offseason. So I'm just reading these comments. Probably came down to cap money. If the Devils traded Paul Murray, the Rock would have been empty. Doug, I don't think the Rock would be empty if they traded Paul Murray. I think that a lot of interests are in these young players. But this team would be hard to watch. We looked amazing against Detroit, but I think if we took the Let's Go Devils podcast fan club, we'd be competitive with Detroit at this. The Dylan Larkin and Jonathan Bernier trying his best. If Sammy wasn't injured, we could have done a tad better. Oh yeah, of course. I think if Sammy was playing right now, even if he was inconsistent like he was towards the beginning of January, I still think you could get. I mean, he was ranked 4th on the trade bait list on TSN. Now I know that takes into account the players that think are absolutely going to get traded. Because I know Kyle Palmieri was like 27th on this list, and I just think that's because all the rumors said he wasn't going to get moved. But I just feel like Sammy got a little undervalued just because of the injury, and I get it. Teams aren't going to pay a lot for an asset that's hurt. And Sammy had a setback, and that's kind of where it all went to heck. If he had a definitive timeline that said he's coming back on March 1st, then I think teams would have been willing to overlook the injury. But the fact that he was supposed to come back a week or two ago, and he's still out, and he's going to be out. He hasn't even been, there's conflicting rumors of what exactly he's got going on. But yeah, I absolutely agree that if Sammy wasn't injured, he gets a much bigger return.
I would agree. I totally agree. If that were to happen, but it didn't happen. But at least the Devils they got a decent prospect in return and a conditional pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they got the conditions. I don't like that there's a condition that they get no pick. I feel like that one I don't like.
Yeah. Hey, before we have our next guest on, Nick, and I'm going to do a little free plug right now before our next guest. Let me tell you, everybody on Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, all of our social media channels that are watching in, I'm going to highly recommend this, and I'm not being paid by anybody because I'm highly recommending it. You've got to subscribe to Chris Ryan's text messages at nj.com. I think it's like $4.99 a month. It is a godsend for this podcast because we're doing a lot of things behind the scenes. We hear rumors, we hear this, we hear that. Chris Ryan is a great journalist. The text message is right to your phone, and you've got the latest updates of what's going on. And I just had to point that out because just like Corey Matsasak, I subscribe to The Athletic. You got to subscribe to that because it is just freaking awesome. If not, you can always follow him on Twitter at @ChrisRyan_NJ. On the Nova Product Design Hotline is Chris Ryan. Chris, this is Sam, Nick. How are you tonight?
I'm good, guys. How about you? I appreciate the plug on the Devil's Insider. It's certainly been an adventure this first year, but I'm glad you guys are enjoying it so far.
I'll tell you a quick story before we begin, Chris. We were at PJ Ryan's doing a live podcast, and it was your text message that reached my phone, and then somebody coming to us that Ray Shero was dismissed or left the team, and we were live, and it was just reporting that out after getting your confirmation text made it so worthwhile. It was just awesome because you never know when you hear rumors like that or you hear inkling from third or fourth hand sources, but to get it from you, it's just a sigh of relief, that it confirms that what we're hearing. So I appreciate that and keep up the good work. But
I appreciate it, guys. It's been a good experience, and obviously have people text me right back and be able to talk to them one-on-one has been pretty cool. And I mean, compared to the kind of swamp that is Twitter, it's a little bit more enjoyable when you can kind of put a name to a face and all that kind of stuff through the phone.
I mean, that's what we're here for. So we appreciate you coming on, and we're going to need you to ease our troubled minds about this trade deadline, Chris. Probably not the smartest idea of myself as a producer to put the Louis Domingue trade first, but you've piqued my interest in the most immense way where you said you had a theory, because Chris, I don't get this trade. They traded for Zane McIntyre, who's a bad NHL goalie. I mean, he's never been good. He has no NHL upside. He is about the same age, or maybe he's a little younger than Domingue, but not anything that, where development is happening. So, Chris, can you tell me what's your theory of why they traded Louis Domingue to the Canucks for basically nothing?
My theory is all that it is all about helping the Canucks because, as you guys know from the Blake Coleman trade a week and a half ago, the Devils have a lot of incentive for the Canucks to make the playoffs this year. If they do, they get their first round pick. If they don't, that first round pick goes to 2021. So when Vancouver loses Marks from over the weekend to apparently a 3 to 4 week injury, that's a pretty big hole in goal. And they have Thatcher Demko who can help plug it up, but they still need another backup goalie. Here come the Devils with pretty much a free goalie who can back up, play a couple games before Markstrom comes back, and the Devils really don't need much back in that case. So they get essentially a third-string AHL goalie, which is fine for them. They're losing Domingue after this year anyway, so might as well try to protect your other asset out in Vancouver.
Wow, that's actually a really good point. I wasn't thinking of that. I probably should have thought of that. And that's why you're the professional and I'm the amateur. So I appreciate you giving us that. But let's go to kind of a couple of the bigger deals. Let me ask you this. Do you look at the Blake Coleman and Andy Green trades as all encompassing on the trade deadline, or when you evaluate Tom Fitzgerald's first trade deadline, or are we only talking about the 3 trades for Simmons, Vatanen, and Domingue?
I think you have to count them. They happened, I think, 8 days before the actual trade deadline, but that's just part of once GMs are talking all month, it's going to happen eventually, and they just were able to find a package for both guys. And at that point, I think you just need to pull the trigger if you have an agreeable return. You don't want to risk one of those guys getting hurt before you end up trading them. So I would count that as part of the Fitzgerald trade deadline. And when you look at them, I mean, they're probably the 2 biggest moves he ended up making anyway.
So that being said, how would you evaluate Tom Fitzgerald, as the interim GM? How would you interpret his job at the trade deadline?
What I would say is he came out, he said he had a pretty clear vision of what the Devils should be in the short term, in the near term, and in the long term going into next year and beyond, that they want to build around Nico and Jack, and to an extent McKenzie as well. And so when he went out and made these deals, he looked for ways to add pieces that could help that mission, maybe not right away, but at least in a year or two when some of these guys are turning pro and making the NHL. So I think from that mantra, he didn't just go out and dump guys. He might have done that a little bit with Wayne Simmons just to do a favor to him and let him go play for at least a borderline contending team for the playoffs. But for the most part, he was able to bring back either picks or kind of a interesting prospect who could help them maybe in a year or two.
So the Simmons one really confused me because, I mean, I get doing a favor for Simmons, kind of giving him a shot. I can understand if they sent him to like the Lightning or the Bruins or a team that was right there. I mean, did he just overplay his hand with Simmons? And because it sounded like Vancouver admitted as much as that they were in on Simmons. And then eventually they were just out. So did he overplay his hand and then teams were just out? Or, I mean, a 5th round pick in 2021 is, the long shot of it. I think it's like less. I think it's around 10% make the NHL at all. So, I mean, did he just overplay his hand there?
Yeah, it's a little. I mean, the odds of that pick turning into anything really are very low, as you just mentioned. I think there was rumblings with the Canucks, and I heard from what we heard, it was just kind of a money thing on Vancouver's side where they couldn't make it work. And I think that was probably the biggest deal, Simmons, for kind of a low tier rental for what he is. I mean, still making a lot of money, and that made it kind of tough. So I think there wasn't ever going to be a big return market for him. He went for a 4th round pick a year ago when he was hurt and not producing, and now he's producing even less. So I don't think the Devils were ever going to get anything really of value other than maybe a late round pick. But I think he did as well as he could have, but you certainly would want more, or for him to just hold on to Simmons and let him kind of ride out the year continue helping a few of the young guys develop. But I think they did want to kind of open up that roster spot for maybe another forward or two to come up and join the lineup.
Now, the big trade was obviously the Sami Vatanen trade. We were all tricked, including Bob McKenzie's own workplace, because for about 3 hours they had it as Vatanen for Kokkonen and a second-round pick conditional, and then we learned later that it was a conditional fourth, which could turn into nothing if he doesn't play 5 games. But, that disappointment aside, what is your how do you feel about this trade? Do you think that the injury ruined it, or do you think they still got good value based on him being an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season?
The injury definitely ruined the value of the pick. Fitzgerald came out and said that as much after the deadline was over. Sammy is still at a point where he can't put his foot into the skate yet, so he's just not able to get out of the ice and kind of get back to where he needs to be. But from what we've heard, they kind of expect him to be back early to mid-March. So they're still pretty optimistic that he'll get on the ice. And I think the Devils will have a pick coming back in some form. And I think it's fair to say it might even be that third rounder if he gets back in time. But that certainly diminished the value of the pick. He probably would have gotten a second-round pick if Botman could have stepped in and played right away. But I think the big part of the deal was getting Yanni and being able to add another prospect who's been in the AHL, who's right in that age group. Probably not going to be a top 6 guy ever in the NHL, but a guy that has some good offensive IQ, a guy that can play down the AHL. Maybe he'll be ready in a year or two to get that call up. I think he'll end up getting an NHL look in the next month or so. But from that perspective, not a bad way to land a decent prospect from the AHL in Carolina.
Yeah, this guy, he looks like he's a playmaker. He's going to go right to Binghamton, so you get to kind of have control of him right away, unlike like Kevin Ball or some of the players that they've gotten in other deals in the past couple of years. It's a controlled asset right away, so I like that. But I just feel like we were riding so high after the Blake Coleman and Andy Green trades, where we kind of almost fleeced both those teams. I did not expect to get a second-round pick for Andy Green, and I definitely didn't expect to get basically 2 first-round picks for Blake Coleman. So, to come in here and to see that disappointment, but part of the disappointment is we kept hearing about the monster returns that were being proposed for Kyle Palmieri. And Kyle Palmieri ended up sticking around. I heard him in that press conference saying, you don't trade 30-goal scorers for just anything. What is your evaluation of that? Do you think that they made the right decision in keeping Palmieri, even though he's close to turning 30 and this team seems like it's still kind of far away?
I think they did. Just from the perspective that you need some kind of veteran leadership around Jack and Nico and all the other young guys that are going to be coming through in the next year or two. And especially with Palmieri, it would have been good to keep Andy Green's leadership in the room. He's obviously a great voice there, but he's a kind of a mid-pairing defenseman, not someone who's going to make an impact on the younger guys. But Palmieri's a top-line forward who's going to play with Nico and Jack, and it's good to have him around for that. So you run that risk of if they extend him, he might decline in 3, 4, or 5 years when he gets into his low mid-30s. But I think when you are still trying to be competitive and contend, and maybe they're not going to be a true playoff Stanley Cup contender until Palmieri's out of that window. But you need guys like him around, and he's a local kid, a guy that led the team in scoring since he got here. I think it was well worth letting him stick around and see what you can do around him.
So, what's your evaluation of this, Chris? You're covering this team. You're in it every day. So, is this team 3 years away, 5 years away? And I'm just talking about playoff contention. We're not talking about Stanley Cup contention. How far are they away from being a competitive team again?
I think they can contend for a playoff spot within the next year or two if the goaltending situation is ironed out. It seems like Mackenzie Blackwood is certainly one of those solutions, whether he's that clear number one starter or part of a 1A, 1B tandem where you could ride both guys 40, 45 games and get good goaltending out of them. Because at the beginning of the year, Blackwood was not good in October. Corey Schneider obviously had his well-documented struggles before he went to the AHL, and it sells the Devils from the get-go. If you're getting good goaltending behind the talent they have in front of them, I think it'll be a little bit better. And part of it will be how their blue line comes together in the next year or two, too. But it kind of all hinges on where the goaltending will be.
Now, I've been pretty stouch defender of PK Subban this season. I'm not going to lie. He's done some things that I don't like, but people were calling for him to get traded this season, and there were some rumors about Toronto being involved, but that always seemed to, it was kind of like just internet chatter, just falling into actual rumors. But I never thought it was going to happen just because the contract didn't make sense. So, I mean, you're talking about veterans, and Tom Fitzgerald talked about having adults in the room. Where does PK Subban fall in that? Do you feel like he's going to embrace that kind of role where he's asked to, instead of being like the superstar kid who's asked to just, spend his talents, he's now has a lot of people looking up to him?
I think he is kind of embracing it a little bit already. I think he really gets a kick out of the young kids kind of coming through and making big plays. Like he was the first one on the ice when Jack Hughes had that overtime winner in Ottawa last month, and he's kind of been the first one over to hug Mackenzie Blackwood every time he records a shutout or a win. And I think he's it's certainly been a change for him. He was on a veteran team in Nashville where he didn't have to be the go-to leader guy, but was obviously talented enough to help carry that team. But it's certainly a different role right now, especially with Andy gone on the defense. He's the clear-cut veteran in that group. So I think it's been an adjustment in that case. But, I mean, he's a guy who's been to a Stanley Cup final. He's won 2 Norris trophies, or won one and been a finalist for another. So he definitely brings some value, and I think it's just kind of going to keep going in that direction where he becomes someone that young blue line, when you have your Ty Smith, Kevin Ball come up, who they can look up to and kind of mimic and follow in their lead.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that he's not the $9 million player that he once was, and he's overpaid, but whatever, it's not our money, who cares? And we're not close to the salary cap, so again, who cares? I just think that maybe the pressure is making it a little too much, but either way, I think that he's going to eventually be fine. But just kind of looking at this team as a whole, Chris, what are some of the things that you, as the reporter, as somebody who's going to eat, breathe, this is your job, so this is your everyday, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the season now that all these players are out of here? There's no playoff race to cover.
Kind of like it was last year. You want to see the 1, 2, 3, 4 AHL guys that get a chance. How can they come up and show they make an impact? Because I mentioned this in a story maybe a week or so ago, but in 2016-17, Blake Coleman got called up around this time, played okay for 20 games, but he turned that into a roster spot a year later, and he was one of the most important players for 3 more years. So these are important games for some of these young kids. It'll be interesting to see if Jack Hughes can kind of get some more things ironed out, maybe get some more points flowing a little bit. But it's all kind of about that, just trying to finish the year on a positive note, regardless of lottery position. I think at this point, they just want to win games, get something going into next year, and see what they can go do from there.
So you mentioned some of the AHL guys getting a look. Michael McLeod looks like the first guy to get that look, obviously after the guys who are already called up. What's your feeling on how they feel about McLeod? Former first-round pick, 12th overall. Guy looked really good in that first season after the draft in Mississauga, but hasn't looked the same since. What's your evaluation of him?
He's certainly not going to be that top 6 forward that they hoped they were drafting back in 2016. And frankly, that's okay. I mean, they fell and had Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes fall into their lap. So there's not really that pressure for McLeod to develop into a top line center, especially right away or even down the line. And right now he can be that bottom 6 guy. Every time he's come up, you don't question the effort. He skates fast. He plays hard. He's in with every battle along the board. So he can fill that kind of grinding role. He's not going to score a ton of goals, as we've seen, but his point production has been okay in the AHL. So I think he's going to kind of carve out an NHL role. I kind of think he'll maybe take over for Kevin Rooney a year from now, with Rooney being a UFA after this year. So we'll see how he does in this lead up into April in the off season. But I think he will be kind of an NHL piece going forward, assuming he's with them for the rest of the year.
And Chris, one last question, and I'm kind of on the fence about this, but with the Devils losing this much talent, the NHL team, I can't see it being completely competitive every night. Yet down in Binghamton, they're currently fighting, scratching, and clawing, trying to make it to the playoffs. What do you think is better for certain players' development? Do you think it's getting some time in the NHL against the professionals, but losing? Or is it winning in the AHL and then getting some playoff experience?
It's certainly a good question. Tom Fitzgerald actually kind of addressed this the other day, and they're trying to find the right balance for each player. And obviously they want to have Binghamton continue a playoff push and play some meaningful games into April and possibly even beyond. So he kind of mentioned a guy like Jesper Boquist. Would you rather have him playing third or fourth line in the NHL where he's not really doing too much, maybe getting 10, 11 minutes a night, or he's playing probably his best hockey of the year playing on the top line in Binghamton? So I think Boquist will end up staying down there at least for a little bit. I think he will be back in the NHL at some point, especially if there is an injury, but it's just kind of a balance of what you want to see, especially maybe with a few guys that haven't seen NHL time this year. Give them a weekend to play in a few games, and you can send them right back if you need to. But it will be interesting to see how they handle those few roster spots with who is up and who is down.
Well, that is Chris Ryan from NJ.com. Remember, we told you about the Devils Insiders text messaging. You got to subscribe to that. And Chris, you got anything good coming up for us? You got any interesting pieces coming up this week?
Not sure if they'll be out this week, but work on some bigger features. Just we're kind of at that point of the year where we're shifting our focus a little bit to the future. Obviously, still going to every game, watching every game, so you'll have that coverage. But just be on the lookout for the next month or so as we kind of look to dig a little bit deeper into a few players on the team, their prospect pool, and some other things like that. So it will still be a pretty interesting month heading into April and the eventual draft lottery.
Awesome. All right. Talk to you soon, Chris. Thanks so much.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
That is Chris Ryan of NJ.com, New Jersey, or NJ Advanced Media. But to me, it's the Start Ledger. It's all the same. But anyway, yeah, I didn't realize you could respond back to Chris with those text messages. That's probably bad that he told us that.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking for vitriol, but I guess for $5 a month, you get your money's worth, right?
Yeah, you know what? It's $5 a month, $4.99. It's not even $5, $4.99. It's like I'll sacrifice my iced coffee. I'll sacrifice.
For $5,
McDonald's.
you don't have to sacrifice anything, Sam. It's just is. You just.
I'd rather have Chris Ryan's text message subscription than the Wendy's $5 meal plan.
I guarantee you, Sam, that half of our listeners right now subscribe to Disney Plus, are paying $7 a month, and haven't turned on that app in about 2 months. I guarantee about half our listenership has done that, Sam. But these go right to your phone. You're on your phone every day. You're thinking, you're watching, you're listening to Devils. We got a pretty good viewership ourselves. So we know that they're living and breathing Devils. Now you can get them everywhere.
Well, I have to admit, since those text messages, two things. Like, psychologically speaking, it's almost like Chris Ryan's my friend, because when you get text messages, people that know you on your phone, it's not like I'm looking on Twitter to see what he has to say, right? And then secondly, like I said, it makes producing these podcasts a lot easier because now I've gotten a little lazy and I just wait for Chris's text at this point. Because I used to, you spend like an hour. You can spend like an hour reading articles online and trying to decipher, and then there's Chris Ryan, and boom, it's right there. But highly recommend it. Also, Corey Masisak as well. The Athletic subscribed to that. But yeah, Chris Ryan's text message, it's freaking awesome. Get it. It's only $4.99. You could sacrifice the Wendy's or the iced coffee or the Disney Plus for that matter. And I didn't know that you could reply, and that changes the whole ball game for me. The problem is I don't want to get banned from like Chris's text message list, so I'll just shut up.
Why can't you just behave, Sam?
Well, that's why I have. This is why I do this, because when you do this podcast, whether Let's Go Devils or Stay in the Fan Address, and you actually put work into it, because we do put work into it, Nick. Everybody puts work into it. It's a labor of love. You start to appreciate what Abby Mastracco, Chris Ryan, Amanda Stein, Chris Westcott, what they do. And especially, like, I complain about sometimes YouTube Live. They hate me there. Sometimes I complain about that. You see some of the crap these journalists take from Devils fans, especially when the team is doing bad. I mean, sometimes it's hilarious, but at the same time, it's like when you have to deal with that over and over and over and over every day, and there's nothing good to write about the team, it sucks. It sucks. It's like doing this podcast. We try to keep it entertaining, but Chris and Abby and all of them, I mean, they're all professional. I don't know how they do it, because I can't goof around. You can't goof around, being where they're at. But here on the podcast, it's basically three guys at a bar. Of course you can goof around a little bit. There's leeway. But anyway, I just thought that was I felt the need to plug it, just because, if I find something good, I just plug it, and it helps me every day. The breakdown of that, some of these complicated trades, what the conditions were, who should we cheer for? Vancouver to make the playoffs so we could get the 2020 pick conditional, stuff like that. It's like the cliff notes, of the Devils fans. Anyway,
now before we play the game, I want to kind of get off the Devils for just 2 minutes, because I want to talk about the NHL just for a second.
Okay.
The NHL is the worst. I mean, I love it, obviously, but it's literally the worst. Do you want to know why it's the worst, Sam?
Why?
The best story of this season is David Ayers coming in for the Carolina Hurricanes at 42 years old, a Zamboni driver, and beating the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't think that anybody could deny that's the best story of the year.
Yep.
So, of course, when the best story of the year happens, the NHL has to discuss the emergency goalie rule at general managers meetings, talking about changing it. Because why can't we just have nice things? These are fun stories. It happens once every 4 years. When was Scott Foster? Scott Foster was like 4 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, and then there was Eric Samborski down in Philadelphia. He went in twice, and then they tried to put him in the game, and then the refs came out. It's like, oh, I hate to do this to you, but the guy has to be injured. We can't just put you in. So they put him in goal, remember? And then they had to pull him because of that
I barely remember that one.
Yeah.
Scott Foster was 2018, by the way. So it was 2 years ago. But still, I mean, these things don't happen that often. And he was on the Today Show. He was on Jimmy, I think, or Stephen Colbert. This is national coverage for a sport that's a month away from the playoffs. Like, why are we changing things that are fun? Sam, whoa, my God. We call the NFL the no fun league. This is, I don't know, no hearts league. I hate it. I hate it, Sam. Just let us have fun.
That's the problem with the NHL. it has to be my way or the highway, the good old boys club. I see nothing wrong with it other than possibilities of a serious injury on the ice. But it's not like this guy was not practicing. I mean, he was practicing with the team, with the Marlies or maybe Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't remember what, but he was a practice goalie. He was within the team. It's not like they picked this guy off the street and be like, all right, put on some pads. How much experience you have? It's not like he is there for a reason. This is the ultimate fan engagement that the NHL could be marketing, because it's almost like a lottery ticket for all their fan base. It could be me one day. Like I talked to Shorts Guy. Shorts Guy's like, I have a chance. Shorts Guy played collegiate ice hockey. He was a goalie. He's a goalie coach. He's in great shape right now. He runs half marathons. New Jersey Devils, are you listening? Shorts Guy could be an e-bug, and he's more than qualified to play on Prudential Center ice. I mean, there's a lot, and you know what? If you get a local kid, and on top of everything else, Nick, the guy had a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
Was it 2 bouts with cancer? I don't know if I read that right. I mean,
I just know about the kidney transplant. I know about the kidney transplant, and then they're selling the T-shirts, and they're selling out, and they're going to help people with kidney issues. Yeah. So they're taking this thing and making it, and getting something good out of it beyond the initial feel-good story. They're actually putting money where their mouth is. Like, Sam, Bill Daly spoke about it. He spoke about it this week, and he said that it's an issue. He said that it obviously raises everybody's attention to the issue. They're calling it an issue as if there's a problem with it.
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, I disagree. I mean, maybe they could strengthen the protocol a little bit in terms of player safety, having a guy, coming in cold and thrown into an NHL game for the first time in their career in the middle of a game. I can understand that because we want to make the game as safe as possible. But, I mean, come on. It's not like it happens every night that 2 goalies would go down. They're called an e-bug, emergency backup, goaltender for a reason. There's a reason for that, because it's an emergency. I don't know.
I had to get on my soapbox for a second because it just made me sad.
We could have a whole podcast on this, but okay, you're going to have your discussion, but till then, the e-bug is still here. We can all dream before and realize, and I'm probably talking out of line here, the NHL, they're all run by a bunch of lawyers. Lawyers always spoil the party. So just keep that in mind. Anyway.
Yeah. You never want a good lawyer. Well, I mean, you always want a good lawyer, but you never want
the only good lawyer is a lawyer that would actually sponsor, this podcast. Okay. I take all that back. See, money can buy happiness. Anyway, let me get Vinny on.
Sam, I heard Celino and Barnes split up, so now you got 2 chances.
Yeah. Anyway, why don't you talk to Facebook Live, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter?
So,
Twitch.
Okay. So another thing, Omar talking about Zacha as a pure top 6 center. I know you're being sarcastic, Omar, but we're going to fall in love with Zacha again, aren't we? He's going to have a really good stretch coming down. It's going to look really good, and we're going to talk ourselves into him. He's 22 years old. He's just getting used to playing wing. We're going to talk ourselves into Pavel Zacha again, aren't we? I just see it coming. I see it, and it's right there. I want Zaka to work out just as much as anybody. I do, but he just seems like he's a bad player. Not bad. Bad is the wrong word. He's an amazing penalty killer. Probably top 10 players in the league on the penalty kill. He could score on the penalty kill. He's just his offensive instincts aren't there. So that scares me. I'm worried about Pavel Zacha in the whole spectrum of things. But I saw somebody was asking me about the coachings. I think that was Omar too. We're talking about the coaching staff at Binghamton. Mark Dennehy is a player that privately we've discussed as taking over for John Hines. I will write about that kind of a little bit later in the season. We're going to really delve into the coaching staff and kind of what I expect to happen. But Dennehy's a name that I wouldn't count out completely. I think it's a long shot that he gets it, but I think that he's going to eventually just stay in Binghamton and maybe eventually become an assistant on New Jersey or something like that. Jeremy Miller, his points go up every year. He's talking about Zacha. See, we're already doing it. We're already talking ourselves into Pavel Zacha. I like him for what he is, but we have to take him for what he is. He is a great penalty killer and an average everything else. And that's fine. If he didn't get taken in the draft that he got taken, that would be fine. Unfortunately, he got taken on the same draft as Kyle Connor, Matthew Barzal, Ivan Provorov, a million other people. So, we expect the world, but Sam, we end up with Pavel Zacha.
Yeah. And somehow we ended up with Vinny Parisi for this game. Good segue.
That was good.
Yeah. Pleased to welcome to the State of the Fan address from Pucks and Pitchforks blog. You can find him on Twitter at Vinny Parisi. We have Vinny Parisi, no relation to Zach. How are you, Vinny?
I'm doing good, Sam. I just want you to know I love a good segue. I think I've said this before. That was an awesome segue. A+, Sam.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That was quite a good segue. But I got to know, Vinny, were you also traded to the Islanders until we leaked it and then Lou rescinded it?
Oh, boys. They would have been my second favorite team for the next 5 years or however long, without question. I will never cheer against the New Jersey Devils. It's against my religion. But we're just going to have to wait till the summer. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, we were ready. You were banging out an article on Zach Parise coming back to the Metro, and then we were just kind of like, wait, it just didn't happen. But anyway, so today, usually I build these games around game shows and kind of make it New Jersey Devils themed. But today, I'm going to play the role of a little troll under the bridge, and we're going to play Riddle Me This. So I felt like I was a little hard on you guys over the past couple of weeks. The games are getting kind of hard. So now I'm just going to give you riddles. I've made riddles, and the riddles are tied to players currently on the New Jersey Devils. So I'm just going to tell you a riddle, and you got to tell me the player that is tied to the riddle. Riddle me this. Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Oh, yeah. Let's do this.
All right. So, and you got to tell me why you think it's this player, because that's the fun part. So explain what your thinking is here. All right. So, as we always do, Sam, you're the home team, so you go last. Vinny, here's your first riddle. A Swede he is not, making him a John Hines must. He was first from the get, leaving Pavel Zacha in the dust.
Ooh. So he's not a Swede. John Hines loved him. I have two guesses in mind.
We only accept one here, Vinny.
Yeah, I'm going to take my one guess. I'm going to go with fan favorite Kevin Rooney.
That is incorrect. The answer here was Nico Hischier.
Ooh,
He's not a Swede.
not
He's
what I was
Swiss.
expecting.
So John Hines, he was first from the get, meaning that from the very beginning, he was on the top line, leaving Pavel Zacha in the dust because Pavel Zacha was the guy we thought was going to get that top line role when Travis Zajac got hurt. Sam, would you have gotten that, or did I make these too hard again?
Yeah, it was in over my head. I wouldn't have gotten it, and I'm probably gonna suck at this game.
All right. Well, Sam, once again, I failed you, but it's okay. We're gonna go with it anyway. I think that's just like the theme now. Is these games are too hard for everybody, but
yeah, you just gotta dumb it down, Nick. You just gotta dumb it down.
I thought this was dumb.
Fun.
I thought this was dumb. All right,
anyway. Just too smart for us.
All right, here's your riddle, Sam. He made a call to Ilya, but don't be mad, you see. The flock comes together, no matter where Blake Coleman may be.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just because they were all in my head that I thought these were easy. I was like, they're going to get all of these.
Could you say that again? I just want to get the flow of the riddle.
Sure. He made a call to Ilya, but don't be mad, you see. The flock comes together, no matter where Blake Coleman may be.
Andy Green?
Incorrect. Especially since I said they're current New Jersey Devils players. So, really
just
incorrect.
Across the river. It's just across the river.
He made it for the Kyle Palmieri military ball. But anyway, the correct answer was Nikita Gusev. Nikita Gusev called Ilya Kovalchuk before he signed with the Devils. The flock comes together was a reference to geese. And no matter where Blake Coleman may be, he used to play on the line with Blake Coleman. So, again, big brain work. Too smart for y'all. But we're going to keep going. Because this is fun. We're having fun. Everybody's fun. Vinny, your second riddle.
Let's do it. That was very clever, Nick. I'll give it to you. I understood it once you said it. It made complete sense once you said it.
Yeah, I know. All right. So your riddle is, he finally put the 1 to replace that heavy 0. Too bad we couldn't be good when he was trying to play the hero.
Put the 1. Ooh. You want to just say it one more time?
Sure.
I know it's going to be tired, but
he finally put the 1 to replace that heavy 0. Too bad we couldn't be good when he was trying to play the hero. And remember, there are players currently on the New Jersey Devils.
I feel like, hold on. That's a tough one. At first I was thinking PK, but it's got to be somebody who scored their first goal recently.
Does it though?
No.
Looks like people in the Facebook Live know Vinny.
I'm going to go with...
Just go with your gut.
Let's just guess Let's guess Jack Hughes.
That is incorrect. The answer is Corey Schneider.
That's good.
That is really good.
Wow, it's still a tie game.
Yep. This one's kind of hard too. So
we're like the Devils playing Detroit.
This is bad. No, we're like the Devils playing everybody else. This is bad. All right, Sam, here's your riddle. We tried to say go, but he only said no. He's the last reminder of when we were good, but now we just blow.
That's a hard one.
I know, that one was pretty hard.
I would
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that again?
We tried to say go, but he only said no. He's the last reminder of when we were good, but now we just blow.
Travis Zajac?
We got one right. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
But that's just one. So, Vinny, here's your chance to tie. We had such high hopes. Oh, okay. I'll go again. We had such high hopes, but heads of steel were fleeting. Some say this is his last chance before our hopes were deleting.
That's really tough. Repeat it one more time. I want to hear it one more time.
Okay. We had such high hopes, but heads of steel were fleeting. Some say this is his last chance before our hopes were deleting.
This is going to be another one of those where you explain it, and I'm just like, are you kidding? We'll say Will Butcher. Will Butcher.
That's incorrect. Michael McLeod is the name. Heads of Steel was Steelheads.
I got it.
Oh, Vinny. Oh, Vinny.
And you're right. This is his last chance, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Sam?
You finally beat me, Sam.
Actually, I'm going to give this one to Vinny, and then I'll give Sam a chance to take the win. So here we go. Vinny, we're going to give you a reprieve. Your riddle is,
I like this.
he was as good as gone, but it wasn't meant to be. Now he better live up to Tommy Fitz to hit that number 30.
Oh, come on. That's too easy.
I feel like I only have one guess. Sam's saying it's too easy, so there's pressure. If I'm wrong, I'm going to look like an idiot.
Please don't look like an idiot.
I'm going to go with Kyle Palmieri because he was
That is correct.
Let's go.
All right, Sam. Here we go. Your chance to win it all. Living alone, he's never done before this season. God bless America. Please protect your behind, because any hope, you're the reason.
Jack Hughes?
Sam has won the game.
That was a good one.
I felt like I felt like y'all gained some momentum at the end there. You were starting to get into the mind of Nick Villano. It's a scary place until you settle down, and then it can be kind of comfortable.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Devil's season right now. You know, we could have been tanking it, but we started winning in the end.
Yeah. Although you don't get draft picks for tanking here. Cheryl Miller says that she won though. So Sam, I don't know how you want to play that game.
Well, Cheryl Miller, you know what you win? Here, let me cue up the Price is Right music. Hold on a sec. A little too loud. Cheryl Miller, you win a future plane ride on the Let's Go Devils podcast private jet. You and your husband will enjoy the amenities of the Let's Go Devils podcast, their humor, their bad jokes, and also make sure that you donate the tip jar at PJ Ryan's. Thank you, Cheryl.
Very good job, Cheryl.
Oh, thanks. I'm getting better and better fooling around on this wonderful podcast.
Well, Vinny, what do you got to plug? What do you got coming up on the Pucks and Pitchforks blog?
Well, as people who follow me on Twitter know, I've been obsessed with the Binghamton Devils lately. Hardcore following them along, hoping they, finish off this little push here, get into the playoffs. They're dealing with the Marlies to try and get in, and the what do you call them? Tampa Bay's team.
Oh, the Crunch. Syracuse, right?
Mm-hmm. So trying to get into so there'll be a piece out tomorrow on why everyone should watch them and pay attention.
That's right. We should definitely pay attention. We should definitely pay attention to Binghamton. Pay attention to Vinny Parisi on the Pucks and Pitchforks blog. Has pieces out at least 5 times a week. So he's going to give you plenty of reading material, despite the Devils being the bane of our existence. So thank you so much, Vinny.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Vinny Parisi. I love the kid, but I had to beat him in the end. Thank you for that softball question. I mean, you gave him a softball question.
I had to build. I saw the question. I saw the riddle, and I was like, anybody's going to get this. And the Jack Hughes one was that you can at least question it, but it was still, I still thought you were going to get it. So I was like, okay, let me give Vinny let's give him Kyle Palmieri. He's top of mind. And then let's give Sam the one with the pressure on. That's how you have to produce a podcast, Sam. I don't know if you know that, but you got to build the suspense and the pressure. So we had to keep the fan base on their heels.
Yeah, and Cheryl Miller knows that she just won a nice trip on our private jet, our future private jet, but now we're just about $34,999,945 away from obtaining that goal, so Cheryl Miller can come on our jet with her husband.
We're almost there. We're
almost there. We're almost there. So I got a few things to plug before we go. Can I plug some stuff?
Yeah, it's your podcast.
All right. Well, it's yours too. So that's why I asked. Because if it was just my podcast, I just mute you the entire time and just jibber jabber. So I want you to speak. Anyway, so looking down the schedule, March 6th will be at PJ Ryan's. No relation to Chris Ryan. Although you never know. Maybe I should text him.
I was like, we don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know that. March 6th, Devils Blues pregame podcast will be there. The following week, down in Florida, we'll be in Tampa, and we'll be in Sunrise. Sunrise, Saturday, March 14th. We're going to have all the information where we're going to be. We're just confirming it right now before the Devils take on the Florida Panthers. And then March 15th in Tampa. Again, We're going to do a live podcast somewhere. We're going to go bar hopping, essentially, Nick. A back-to-back on the road in the Sunshine State. Is it the Sunshine State? Is that what Florida is? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought it was the Orange State, but then again, they grow oranges there. Right. Anyway, so
they do.
Yeah. So we're going to go on the road, and then on March 28th, PJ Ryan's, before Devils Flyers, that's Body Armor Night, or Body Armor Day, Battery Day, if you wanted to. We're going to be doing some beer for breakfast thing for people 21 or older, but it's all in the works. I just want to get that, in your ears, because we're going to be traveling next month. Because, I was actually thinking about it, Nick. If Mac Black, who's been hot, goes on a 20-game winning streak, Devils can make the playoffs.
I mean, sure.
Could make the play. I mean, can you imagine if they just ripped out a streak like that? They win 10 in a row to get 20 solid points, and those teams teetering start slumping, and there's a big logjam there, and you see like the Devils are like 6 points out with 2.5 weeks to go. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would make the games interesting.
It would make them something, Sam.
If the Devils make the playoffs right now, no, not right now, by the end of the season, I wonder if you put a wager in Vegas, and you're the betting expert, how much would you win?
To make the playoffs?
Yeah. What are the odds right now?
Hold on, I can look it up.
Yeah, look it up real quick. I'll cue in the music. But yeah, I mean, I'll put $10 down. Can I wager $10?
You can wager $1.
Oh, okay. I don't know how betting works.
You can wager any price you want.
Do you think William Hill Sportsbook would have something like that?
I don't know if they have that specific one. Let's see, what's this? Nope. Where are they? I'm trying to find the live odds. I just keep finding a bunch of articles about what they were at the beginning of the season. Keep talking, Sam. I'll find this.
Oh, okay. I was just kind of jamming to the music. Well, want to thank Chris Ryan for coming on to the podcast. Hopefully he'll visit us at PJ Ryan's at his distant cousin's place. Let's put it that way. Also,
so I will tell you this, Sam. I did find this. The Devils are plus 100,000 to win the Stanley Cup.
Okay, so what does that mean?
That means if you bet $100, you go to 100,000.
Wow.
And if you bet $10, you can win 10,000. So basically, it's 1,000 to 1. So for every $1 you bet, you get $1,000.
Sounds like a good bet to me.
You got $100, Sam? We'll both go in. We'll both go in for 50.
Yeah.
Then we'll take the show on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know that if we do win, all that money is going to go towards our private jet, right?
I don't like this investment anymore.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I want to thank Chris Ryan for coming on. Vinny Parisi. Nick, got some good stuff coming up in the next week with Pucks and Pitchforks blog?
Yeah, just remember pucksandpitchforks.com. Follow us on Twitter at PitchforkPuck. Follow us on Facebook. We're doing some different things on Facebook too. Pucks and Pitchforks on the Facebook page. So go like and follow us there. I'm going to have that Kyle Palmieri look back, and I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you still should be excited for the rest of the season.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. To everybody, see you next time. Till then, let's go. Devils!